Welcome to the Butterfly Effect. I'm Chris Horner. This is Flèche Wallonne 2024. Today's race, it is not going to be anything like we have seen in the past, where the Peloton just controls everything beautifully into the last climb, Mur de Huy. It's an epically famous climb and super steep. We're talking about 18%, I think closer to 20% sections when you get into the tight corner. For almost the last 900 meters, it's crazy. Everything from 15, I'll call it up to about 20%, going from 900 meters up to the finish and the summit finish on today's Flèche Wallonne. Epic classic race, one of the semi-classics, and I remember doing it way back in the 90s, and one year it was snowing on us one side and on the circuit and then sunny on the other. Today's race, about 200 kilometers, let's call it, 125 miles, and the circuit, they're going to do 4 times of about 30 laps, 31 kilometers thereabouts in distance, but 4 laps, 4 times up the Mur de Huy, which is going to be new here in 2024. Now, they're not going to have all the other bumps and lumps and climbs that we're normally used to seeing, but they have the Côte d'Arif. They're going to do that one 4 times too, and it's about 15 kilometers out from the finish of the Mur de Huy. So 30 kilometers, 2 climbs, one on one end, one in the middle. Keeps things interesting. Every 15 kilometers in between there, that's where the tacks want to be going on if you're not a pure climber and if you cannot win on Mur de Huy. Now when the racing starts, let's back the film up just a little bit because we'll see all the riders up on the podium and they're decked out in winter gear. All of them are decked warm. All of them are up there on the podium signing autographs and waving to the fans before the race begins, incredibly stacked with clothing on. So this is going to be an important race to stay warm on if some rain comes. And we know from the interviews from all the riders that were being interviewed before the race that they know weather could change when we start getting into the finish here on the classic, semi-classic race of Flèche Wallonne. When they're on the circuit, it could get nasty. That's what we know when we're watching from the Chesterfield. Race comes on. We got 6 riders up the front. We've got about 5-minute, 4.5-minute gap to the Peloton. No big names in this front group, so if you're sitting on the Chesterfield, you pretty much know they're going to get caught. We go back and look at the Peloton. Ineos is riding on the front. EF Education's around there. They got some help there. Multiple teams, 3, 4 teams riding on the front. Then we're going to see Mark Hirschi from UAE Team Emirates at the back in the car. It's about 140 kilometers to go because cameras came on with a ton of kilometers in today's Flèche Wallonne, which kind of surprised me. I was happy once I found out that the rain was going to start coming. But when it first came on sitting on the Chesterfield, I'm like, 140K for Flèche Wallonne? We all know it just comes down the Mur de Huy. Why are we watching 140K? Well, we need to watch 140K. You guys need to go back and watch 140K because it's going to be an exciting all-out fest here at Flèche Wallonne, and we're going to see guys blowing up all over the place. So I'm going to miss details all over. Most important thing, though, if I was racing Flèche Wallonne, the most important detail I'm not going to miss, I'm going to have my rain bag. I'm going to have my jackets. These are my normal jackets that I keep for good weather. You don't want those. As fantastic as those Castelli jackets are, you don't want those. You want this Castelli jacket. You want the one for the rain and the miserable conditions that's completely waterproof. The other jackets are great for the first half of this race, and you see Mark Hirschi when he's back at the car, when the cameras come on, the guy's got no arm warmers on and no leg warmers. Anybody you see racing at Flèche Wallonne that has no leg warmers on is a knucklehead. Anybody you see racing without any arm warmers and no leg warmers, and he's wearing a scarf that's going to cover over his nose, this guy's really knucklehead. You don't want any advice from Mark Hirschi on what kind of weather gear to wear. You better be paying attention to the butterfly effect if you're a young pro, because I'd never look like Mark Hirschi back there with a scarf over my nose, but no arm warmers and no leg warmers on. I would tell you to have your rain bag super prepared. This is what the rain bag has. Every car has this if the rider has any intelligence whatsoever. Mine's, of course, made from Castelli. And when you flip it open, mine's organized as crazy. I'd have my normal race gloves right here. We'll see this one. I mark it as number 2. These are normal race gloves. They're for when the cold weather, the first part that we're watching here at Flèche Wallonne, that's what you'd want to have. You don't want those either. That's not going to work for today's weather once we start getting into the cold stuff. You want to go to the winter glove sub-freezing package right here that I'd have unzipped, ready to go, sitting in my bag. And guys, this is no exaggeration. This is the amount of gloves I would have for the winter stuff because you're going to need to change gloves throughout the race if it's really raining anytime it slows down. Problem is, it might not ever slow down at Flèche Wallonne. Now, if you get past the weather gloves, Normally I'd have my rain jacket that I keep up here so you guys can see it, and I'd have one, if not two of those inside my bag for sure, and then maybe two that are vest size. That's how you'd pack your rain bag, and of course you'd have different subdivisions here for your glasses that you have clear lenses and you can go back and change multiple goggles. So when you're racing, you always have your rain bag with you, and Mark Hershey's not dressed properly, so never listen to that knucklehead. Now let's get back into the racing. We're starting to get onto the circuit with about 110 kilometers to go. Then the rain starts coming down with about 100, 110 kilometers thereabouts. The rain starts coming sideways, guys. It's vicious out there how bad it's coming. When it comes sideways, that means when you go back to your car to start putting on your jacket, you can't actually take both hands off the handlebars to get your jackets on, and that's why we'll start seeing riders in the breakaway. They're having all kinds of problems. James from Q36.5, he's back there in the cars for about 5 kilometers trying to get his jacket on, and he's having help from the mechanic in the car reaching over, and he's not having any luck. Then he's going to hit for the first time the Mur de Huy. Once he goes up to the Mur de Huy, by the time he gets to the top, he gets on. But guess what? It's time for Alain there from Total Energy. He's going to go back to the car. He's going to start having problems. All 6 of the original breakaway guys right here at this moment in the race, they're all knuckleheads because the time is falling dramatically. All 6 should have just gotten their car to pull up, pulled over to the side of the road, lost 30 seconds, put your warm gear back on, and then get back to racing, because the kind of time that James wasted back there from Q36.5, clearly his clothing wasn't working very good for him, and Q36.5 actually makes cycling clothing. And then when we look at Alain, when he's having problems from Total Energy, he finally cracks. He's having so much problems, his hands are completely red, and then he finally pulls over to the right side of the road after the Mur de Huy, the first pass, and he just calls it a day here at Flèche Wallonne because he's not going to make it back up to the front group there that has 6 guys left. James did, but how much energy he wasted must have been massive, and the kind of time they wasted instead of just pulling over and changing was ridiculous. They're all knuckleheads up there, and they're going to get caught anyways. They'll get caught when we go the second time up to Côte d'Arif. Once we see them getting wrapped up, the Peloton's starting to get excited, but I got to take you back to the first passage of the Mur de Huy, because guess who gets on the front? UAE Team Emirates didn't ride all day, but when they got on the circuit and things started getting nasty, Mark Hershey got on the front. Dominic Novak was in front of him. Hershey's sitting second, so Hershey's actually not on the front, but he's putting his teammate on the front, and his teammate's drilling it. We go up to Mur de Huy. All of a sudden, Hershey starts fading off to the left and dropping to the back of the group. I'm sure he's going to want to put some clothes on. But before we get to Hershey, let's go back up to the front of the Peloton as they went over the top of the Mur de Huy. We see there's 3 UAE Team Emirates riders on the front. Dominic Novak, my old teammate Diego Ulises, and the American rider Brandon McNulty's up there. Now, if you're listening to Peacock, you're going to hear Christian Vanderfield talk about how he loves watching UAE at the front. He thinks this is a great idea. I think they're a knucklehead, and I think Christian's a knucklehead too, because when you look at the back of the Peloton, their top riders are back there. Ayuso's back there, and Mark Hershey's back there. And if I show you with 88 kilometers ago, Mark Hershey was having all kinds of problems putting on his gloves and stuff. Nightmare situation because you can't get your hands into your gloves when they're cold and wet. So he's having issues. While up at the front, Dominic Novak's blowing up the Peloton. It's falling apart in pieces all over. Christian Vanderfield's happy to see UAE team members on the front. He says it's a great idea. It's a knucklehead idea. You never get on the front and blow the race up when you got Juan Ayuso, winner of the Basque Country, back there, and you got Mark Hershey having problems with his clothing, who, let me remind you guys, 4 years ago, UAE team members Mark Hershey won here at Flèche Wallonne, was riding for a different team if I recall right then, but he's still a past winner, and we know the guy's on fantastic form because he just went second at Amstel Gold, so he should be one of their outright leaders here. Instead, Dominic Novak's throwing down. Like I said, Christian Vanderfield's having a field day of excitement here, and when we come around for the second lap and there's no UAE Team Emirates riders on the front, Christian Vanderfield's talking about how, well, they lit this race all up and now they're not on the front. Yeah, they're not on the front, Christian, because there was only 3 on the front and half their team was on the back, so that was a nightmare knucklehead tactic. But we're going out now up the Mur de Huy. Everything's been brought back together. We're going up for the second time. So once we get up to the top, we go over the top. Søren Kragh Andersen from Albacete de Koenig throws in a solo tack. He's going with everything he can up front there. Christian Vanderfield's happy with this one too. Bob Roll's happy with this. They both love it. I'm sitting on the Chesterfield thinking, it's 60 kilometers to go. Søren Kragh Andersen, You could win Flèche Wallonne, but you can't win it solo from 60 kilometers to go. Why do I know that? Because his name's not Tadej Pogacar. It's not Primoz Roglic. It's not Remco Evenepoel, and it's certainly not Jonas Vingegaard because he just left the hospital. So we know Jonas Vingegaard's not in the race. But Søren Kragh Andersen's up the road. Christian Vande Velde's loving this tactic too. As he's up there, Christian Vande Velde starts changing his tactics about it. He's saying, well, you know, if you're up there on your own, you don't get the rest on the wheel, you don't get to recover on the wheels. But this is a great opportunity for Søren Kragh Andersen to try to win here at Flèche Wallonne with 60 kilometers to go. There's no opportunity to win. Not if you're by yourself. You want to wait and get some more guys. He didn't wait. He's still going solo. We're coming in now to the third time up Mur de Huy, and we start seeing the pelotons blowing up. We see Stephen Williams at the front as we're nearing the top of the summit there. Once he's going full gas, we're going to look at the group behind because you know if you're Stephen Williams, you don't want to be solo because the gap up to Søren Kragh Andersen is still over a minute, so that's a big-time effort to close that on your own. But Stephen Williams trying to go solo, and he's got 4 guys chasing behind. If you look at the group chasing behind, it's Carapaz back there, Santiago Buitrago, Kevin Vauquelin is back there, and Max Van Gils from Lotto Destiny, he's in there. That's a 4-man group of solid numbers. And you got Stephen Williams at the front. Stephen Williams, he wises up. He's not a complete knucklehead. Sits up, backs off. We get 5 guys in the front group chasing Søren Kragh Andersen, who's still solo with about a 60-second gap. We go 15, 20 seconds back and look at the peloton there. You know X is all over the front. But the other team back there, Visma Lease Bike, they're doing okay. They got at least 3 riders back there. Thies Benoot's had some problems throughout this whole Flèche Wallonne, but he's up there in the front group, and there's only about 30, 40 guys max. And then they're going to go in the Col d'Arif with about 15 kilometers to go. We'll see the group of 5, they wisely sit up. When they sit up, they're wise enough to know Carapaz, Santiago Buitrago, Kevin Vauquelin, I think was the 3rd rider. They know they got to take off their winter gear because we're coming into the final here with just under 15 kilometers to go. Now, as they get wrapped up, you know X is still riding the front. 4 or 5 guys at the front. They're doing a magnificent job. Tactically, they've been spot on. They missed a couple moves, but if you missed a move, all you can do is ride. If you got 5 guys, that's what they did. They brought it all back together with the exception of Søren Kragh Andersen. Now, Søren Kragh Andersen's just a little bit further up the road. He'll get wrapped up on the Col d'Arif too, and as he's getting wrapped up, you know X is still riding the front. I'm sitting on the Chesterfield like I always do when I'm watching the bike races, bringing you guys the butterfly effect, and I'm thinking, right now, you know X, once they get to the top of the summit here, they got to start throwing in some attacks, because if I take you back, all the way back to the last time going up Mur de Huy, you know X were having some problems. They weren't going over the top with that group of 5 up front. So I don't know if they can win here the last time up Mur de Huy when we're talking about 900 meters to go. Well, they reach the top here at Col d'Arif. Bam! They start throwing in attacks. Visma Lease Bike's covering them. Right away, we see Johannes there. He throws in the first acceleration to bring back Uno X. Then there's the next counter move from the Uno X team. As he counters, we're going to see Tim Van Dijk. Tim Van Dijk immediately is covering the move. Now, okay, I understand what Visma Lease Bike's doing. They got Thies Benoot, right? They're hoping to go into the Mur de Huy with 900 meters to go when it gets super stiff, and they're hoping Thies Benoot can win here at Flèche Wallonne. I'm thinking maybe Thies Benoot and Visma Lease Bike need to be attacking with Uno X so that they can get up the road, because when you look at the resume of Thies Benoot, he doesn't have a ton of wins, if any wins, going against a peloton coming into the last and final 900 meters of a race. But this isn't much of a peloton either, so I'm okay with it. No one's a knucklehead, just not the tactic I do, as we see Tim Van Dijk ride the front after he brings back the second tack from Uno X. Then we see Johannes there, his teammate, get back on the front. That's going to leave Tim Van Dijk, one guy there to look after Thies Benoot as we come in the finish. The Visma Lease Bike rider is doing a fantastic job riding the front. As he comes into about 6 kilometers to go, they'll make the left turn as they come along the river. Once they get into the river and we get into about 2.5, 2 kilometers to go, this is when we're going to start seeing that Uno X gets on the front. We come into about 1.5, there's company. It's a drag race from 2 teams. It's Decathlon AG2R with 3 riders on the left side, Uno X on the right with 3-4 riders there as they're trying to bring in Tobias Johannesson here to the final climb of the Mur de Huy at Flèche Wallonne. And on the left side, well, that's Benoit Cosnefroy that's sitting 3rd wheel. Front guy that's leading over there on the left side for Decathlon Well, that guy, Bruno Armai is very good at what he does. And he doesn't win a ton of races, but he helps guys on his team win races. We saw that at the Basque Country as Bruno Armai's taken over the front when we come into the right turn off the river. As the right turn starts to go up, this is when the climb starts. It's really about 1.5 kilometers as the climb goes up if you're a normal human being, but for the pro guys, it doesn't really start till about 900 meters to go. We come into about 1.2 kilometers to go as the road turns left, then it starts to pitch up, and we still see that Benoit Cosnefroid is on the front. He's drilling it all the way into 1 kilometer to go. Then once we come into 900 meters, the famous right turn that starts to Muur de Huy proper, we see that Tim van Dijk has taken over from the inside there. He's got Thijs Benoot wrapped just slightly behind him on the inside, starting the Muur de Huy proper. Benoit Cosnefroid is there. We see Stephen Williams, who went solo the lap before going up on this climb. He's there just about third, fourth row back, so he's a little bit tangled up, but he's still close enough to the front where you're not too worried when you saw his form and his attack on the lap before. But Carapaz is in good spot. Benoit Cosnefroid is at the front. Once we start going into about 750 meters to go, Benoit Cosnefroid is going to take over from Tim van Dijk. Ooh, I'm sitting on the Chesterfield. I'm thinking Benoit Cosnefroid. This is a little bit early. I know you're fast. I know you've won 3 big races already this season. One was a semi-classic, but this is Muur de Huy, and you're on the front with 700 meters to go. We start looking over. Carapaz is there. We got a ton of favorites. We look, Max van Gils is a little bit out of place, about 4th row back there on the inside. But as you start looking further up, Carapaz, like I said, he's in solid position. He's going to do a little bit of bumping and grinding as the road starts to bend to the left with one of the competitors there. Stephen Williams is just behind that. The road's going to go left, it's going to go a little bit right, and we're talking about 15, 18% sections here with under 500 meters to go. We get out just about 325. Look there, Stephen Williams coming up the left side there from the back. He was about 3rd, 4th row when the Muur started proper, but now he's moving up. 290 meters to come, and as the road starts to bend to the right, the favorites in the front, they're all going to the right side. Tom Squinge was at the front from Trek. I was pretty surprised about that, but he's fading over to the right with all the favorites because it's got a right bend. That's going to open up the left side, and we'll see Stephen Williams. Israel Premier Tech throws in a huge attack at 290 meters to go. Little far out, but it's not 400 like we see Primoz Roglic when he lost to Muur de Huy here to none other than Julian Alaphilippe, the 2-time winner here at Flèche Wallonne. But Julian Alaphilippe's not in the group, and all of the GC guys, big-time names, have been dropped out. Mark Hershey got dropped. Skilmos from Trek has been dropped. Juan Ayuso has been dropped. Peo Bilbao has been dropped out of the group way before. 30 guys left at this moment when he's attacking Stephen Williams. He's throwing in a huge acceleration, and he's got a gap on Benoit Cosnefroid. Cosnefroid's been riding the whole time at the front. He starts throwing in his acceleration with 200, but the gap up there to Stephen Williams is extending pretty fast. Now we'll see Kevin Vauquelin, or Samsic. He throws in his acceleration about 150 meters to go. And he's gaining fast on Stephen Williams from Israel Premier Tech. We look just behind Kevin Vauquelin. What's happening? Well, we'll see there 3rd place. Max van Gils. He's starting to come around Benoit Cosnefroid, who spent way too much time on the front here of the Muur de Huy. But that was his choice. He's a knucklehead. Up front, Stephen Williams. He's looking back over his shoulder. Every time he looks back, he sees Kevin Vauquelin getting closer and closer. He looks again at 50 meters. He looks again at 25. He looks again backwards at 15. Now he knows he's got it won, so he starts to sit up and celebrate. Arms wide, but the ugliest face that I've ever seen winning here at Flèche Wallonne as he's crossing the line. He gets a little pat on the shoulders from his soigneurs with hugs from one soigneur and one staff member after that. You want as many hugs as you could possibly get after a cold and miserable day here at Flèche Wallonne. That's for certain. That's how you get warm. But when we look at who got second on the stage, Kevin Vauquelin, like I said, he did a fine job of bringing back the drama all the way into the line here to get second. 3rd on the race, Max van Gils, Lotto Destiny. He rounded out the podium here at Flèche Wallonne for a very exciting day. And guys, like I said at the beginning of the video here, I left out details all over. It was a magical day of racing, and I never seen so many big names blow up. It was ridiculous how they are falling out here at Flèche Wallonne and disappearing left and right. Thijs Benoot was really the biggest name left up front in this group of 30, along with Benoit Cosnefroid, who's been winning earlier in the season, like I said. But to see the victory here from Stephen Williams, that was a bit of surprise, even though I know he's been winning down at the Tour Down Under and having some solid results here in 2024. No one would have picked Stephen Williams to be up on the top step here of the podium. But like I said, if you back up the butterfly effect all the way to Paris-Roubaix, once you get crazy wind, once you get rain and stuff, it starts to change everything when it's cold, rain, miserable conditions. And when you remember right at Paris-Roubaix, I said always in tailwind, you don't want to be the underdog in a tailwind race. You don't want to be the underdog if it's going to be a crosswind and the favorite has his team on the front like we saw with Alpecin de Koenig. You want craziness, you want slippery roads, you want lefts, right turns, you want it to be cold, miserable, and that's why we see the Peloton just blow up in pieces here so early at Flèche Wallonne. And a rider, a quality rider, and one that we're going to have to put on our radar for sure, Stephen Williams from Israel Premier Tech, bringing a big semi-classic win here at Flèche Wallonne to the team. Congratulations, Stephen Williams. I love the race, super exciting, and it took me forever to get through the details. There were so many. Like and subscribe. I'll see you guys on the next edition real soon.